December 7, 1941, 7:48 a.m. The sky above Hawaii is crystal blue. U.S. sailors are just starting their Sunday routines. Some are still asleep, others are at breakfast, and a few are lazily polishing decks. The world, for them, feels peaceful. But just over the horizon, hundreds of Japanese warplanes slice through the clouds like a swarm of steel hornets. Their engines hum in perfect unison. Inside the cockpits, pilots grip their controls, ready to strike. In moments, the calm of Pearl Harbor will turn into chaos, explosions, fire, death. America will be pulled into the most destructive war in human history. But this attack didn't happen out of nowhere. Japan's decision to bomb Pearl Harbor was years in the making, a product of ambition, desperation, and miscalculation. This is the story of why Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. To understand Pearl Harbor, we have to travel back to the early 20th century. Japan, once a secluded island nation, had transformed rapidly after the Meiji Restoration. It modernized its military, industry, and infrastructure, eager to prove itself on the global stage. By the 1930s, Japan had become a rising power, but it faced a big problem: resources. Japan lacked vital raw materials like oil, iron, and rubber, the lifeblood of any modern empire. To fuel its ambitions, Japan began expanding into Asia. In 1931, it invaded Manchuria. In 1937, it launched a full-scale war against China, committing brutal atrocities like the infamous Nanjing Massacre. But this expansion alarmed Western powers, especially the United States, which had major economic and strategic interests in the Pacific. Throughout the late 1930s, the US watched Japan's aggression with growing concern. America was still officially neutral, but it was the dominant Pacific power, controlling territories like the Philippines, Guam, and Hawaii. It also supplied Japan with the majority of its oil. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's administration started applying economic pressure. In 1940, the U.S. imposed export restrictions on aviation fuel and scrap metal. In July 1941, after Japan moved into French Indochina, the U.S. froze Japanese assets and cut off all oil exports. For Japan, this was a chokehold. Without American oil, its Navy and Air Force would grind to a halt within months. Tokyo now faced a stark choice: back down from its imperial ambitions or strike to secure resources elsewhere. The Japanese leadership chose the second option. Japan's military leaders believed war with the U.S. was inevitable. The question was not if, but when and how. Their plan was bold, even audacious. While Japan conquered resource-rich territories in Southeast Asia, like the Dutch East Indies for oil, it would simultaneously cripple the U.S. Pacific Fleet stationed at Pearl Harbor. If successful, this knockout punch would buy Japan time, maybe 6 months to a year, to fortify its empire. They believed the U.S., shocked by a massive defeat, would negotiate peace, leaving Japan to dominate Asia unchallenged. It was a gamble based on speed, surprise, and the hope that America lacked the will for a long war. By late 1941, Japan had made its decision. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, commander of the Japanese Combined Fleet, was tasked with planning the attack. Yamamoto was no fool. He had studied in the United States, understood American industry, and privately warned, greater than, "If I am told to fight, I will run wild for 6 months. After that, I have no expectation of success." Still, he crafted a daring plan. 6 aircraft carriers would sail secretly across the North Pacific. They would launch a surprise aerial assault on Pearl Harbor. Their targets: U.S. battleships, airfields, and infrastructure, crippling America's ability to fight back. Meanwhile, Japanese diplomats in Washington were instructed to stall negotiations to keep the U.S. distracted until the attack was underway. December 7, 1941. At 7:55 a.m., the first wave of Japanese planes descended on Pearl Harbor. Torpedoes ripped through the hulls of battleships. Bombs turned runways into firestorms. The USS Arizona exploded in a fiery inferno, killing over 1,100 sailors in seconds. Within 2 hours, the U.S. Pacific Fleet was devastated. 8 battleships were damaged or sunk. 188 aircraft destroyed. Over 2,400 Americans killed. But crucially, American aircraft carriers, the true power of modern naval warfare, were not in the harbor that day. They survived. Japan celebrated the attack as a stunning success. But it had made 2 critical mistakes. 1. it failed to destroy vital oil storage tanks and repair facilities at Pearl Harbor, allowing the U.S. fleet to recover faster than expected. 2. It underestimated American resolve. Far from negotiating, the attack united the United States like never before. The very next day, President Roosevelt delivered his famous speech, greater than December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. Congress declared war on Japan almost unanimously. 4 days later, Germany and Italy declared war on the U.S., turning a regional conflict into a truly global war. Japan had wanted a quick, decisive strike to secure its empire. Instead, it had awakened an industrial giant. Over the next 4 years, the United States would pour massive resources into the Pacific War, island by island, ship by ship. By 1945, Japan was pushed back to its home islands. Its cities lay in ruins. And the war ended with the devastating atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The attack on Pearl Harbor, meant to secure Japan's future, ultimately sealed its fate. Pearl Harbor was not just an attack. It was a desperate gamble born of ambition, fear, and flawed calculations. Japan hoped to control Asia by striking first. Instead, it triggered the full might of a nation determined to fight back. History turned on that quiet Sunday morning in 1941, and the echoes of Pearl Harbor still shape the modern world today.